Today on Christian World News, the persecuted church, how the government in Vietnam is trying to bully Christians from holding Sunday services.
Plus, revival in Russia. We'll take a look at one of the fastest growing evangelical congregations in the country.
And Soul Surfer, the new movie about top surfer Bethany Hamilton and how her faith helped her recover from a devastating shark attack. An Argentine evangelist preaches the gospel in Vietnam. Hello, I'm Wendy Griffith.
And I'm George Thomas. Public rallies in Vietnam could signal a new openness for the church in a country long criticized for persecuting Christians. Evangelist Luis Palau spoke to an estimated 16,000 people in Ho Chi Minh City, with as many as 5,000 making commitments to Jesus Christ. Palau credits Vietnamese pastors for organizing the historic event.
It's very touching to see their humility, not humility with strength, not weakness, and confidence in the Lord. And they speak with those who they have to talk to in leadership with humble authority. This is very impressive. And they don't give up. They are persistent, they are consistent, and they insist on doing what the Lord has told them to do. And they are willing to pay any price if that happens.
Palau later flew to Hanoi to hold more rallies. He plans to return to Vietnam in June to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Evangelical Church in Vietnam.
In spite of the government's willingness to allow public rallies with Palau, Vietnam has a history of persecuting Christian believers. Denise Lottie from Canada's 100 Huntley Street recently traveled to Vietnam with a team from Voice of the Martyrs. She tells us of the many hardships experienced there. Here's her reports.
It's Sunday morning in Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City as it's now known. On the surface, this could be any church service in North America. Even some of the choruses sung here are translated from English. But the similarities end there. This is another church in Saigon. The hidden camera shows government officials raiding the building and breaking up a service held by the Assemblies of God congregation. It wasn't the first time. The reason for the raid? Officials said those meeting didn't have permission to do so. In communist Vietnam, Christianity isn't illegal, nor is any religion. But what the law says and how it's practiced are often two different things. Just ask this man, Reverend Nguyen Hung Quang, a Mennonite pastor who's become a thorn in the flesh of Vietnam's ruling party.
What makes Pastor Quang so dangerous is what he knows. As a trained lawyer, he's challenged the government repeatedly on its violations of religious freedoms. He's not just speaking for himself, but for many other persecuted minorities.
In the last 20 years, he's been arrested repeatedly and imprisoned, slandered in newspapers, and followed by police. We've agreed to meet in a safe house in one of Saigon's busy neighborhoods.
Pastor Quang?
They follow me for the last 20 years, but in this period, it's more intense.
On December 14, 2010, an estimated 500 soldiers and police oversaw the demolition of a two-story building that was both the home of Pastor Quang and the headquarters of the Vietnam Mennonite Church. Though he did not resist the demolition, he was beaten unconscious when he objected to the arrest of 20 Bible school students.
Even though we are facing it, we are also horrified by that, being beaten up and thrown like that. In Vietnam, we have no right to think and speak the truth.
If anything, these events provoke Pastor Quang to speak even louder. He says his legal training has helped him to be a voice for those who can't speak for themselves. Still, Pastor Quang has landed in jail on 7 occasions, most recently in 2005.
Whenever I think back of times in prison, I think this is the best time I had communion with the Lord. In 2005, when I was in prison, in the room they have 100 prisoners. 50 of them became believers.
As a single-party state, the government is ever present. Still, among the stars and sickles and portraits of communist hero Ho Chi Minh is another Vietnam, one that has wholeheartedly embraced commercialism. Tourism is one of the biggest injectors of this emerging economy, and the billions it brings in has caused the state to work on its image. A 2004 U.S. State Department report on human rights practices cited Vietnam's poor record on freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of association. In recent years, Vietnam has done better, thanks in large part to a government initiative to register Christian churches and denominations.
Well, the government of Vietnam made a very concerted effort to get off of the U.S. State Department list of countries of particular concern. They made a very public showing of, look, we're making progress, look, it's different now. They wanted not to be on that list, and it worked.
But Todd Nettleton and Greg Musselman are concerned. As representatives of Voice of the Martyrs in the U.S. and Canada, they travel the world to document cases of Christian persecution. This means going directly to the source.
I'm very impressed with the
Musselman says religious persecution is ongoing, albeit more hidden.
To the outside world, you get this understanding that, hey, things are not so bad in Vietnam, but when you're actually in the country, you start to talk to the believers, you realize that the persecution is still there.
Which brings us back to this video. This is an unregistered church, which makes it illegal. According to Pastor Quang, government registration of churches is the new frontier in the battle for freedom of religion.
Registration is not freedom of religion. If we organize a Christmas celebration, we have to ask for permit. Registration is giving in to tighter control.
Pastor Quang and his church have no plans to register with the government, and they are in the process of rebuilding what was destroyed. He plans on continuing his fight for freedom through legal means, and, most of all, through prayer.
Once we serve God, surely we must go the way of the cross. I will not quarrel against the Lord for what has happened. Once they use violence, they are defeated already. They are afraid.
For CBN News, Denise Lottie, Vietnam.
Chinese authorities have released more than 100 churchgoers arrested for worshiping in a public park. The pastor and his wife remain under house arrest. This is undercover footage taken outside the park where church members tried to hold the service. As you can see, police were in full force surrounding the venue. The church was evicted last week from their usual meeting place. Leaders of the church insist no laws were broken. Nevertheless, one church leader says he was tortured while in police custody. Many members have lost their jobs and homes due to government pressure on employers and landlords. In an email, one of them said, quote, "This is a great spiritual battle. Keep praying for us."
Iraq's Christian community is slowly dwindling. Open Doors USA estimates that as many as 95,000 Christians have fled since Muslim extremists attacked a church last October. Iraq had more than 800,000 Christians before the 2003 invasion. Muslim radicals have forced many to flee the country. Open Doors President Carl Moeller says there could be fewer than 300,000 Christians in Iraq today.
What we're really seeing take place in Iraq right now can't be described as anything other than a religious side. The systematic, intentional elimination of Christianity from that country. And it's just a disturbing reality for all of us. I understand Americans, we want to put Iraq in our rearview mirror. We want to say that was a few years ago and we want to move past it. But unfortunately, for our brothers and sisters in Christ, the church in Iraq, that's not a past tense phenomenon. Their pain and their suffering is present tense, and we need to be aware of that and stand with them now.
Open Doors is calling on the Obama administration to encourage Iraq's leaders to do more to protect the Christian community there.
Some Christians in Egypt are looking for ways to leave that country. They're concerned that radical Islamists are gaining power after the ouster of President Hosni Mubarak. Human rights lawyers say they are receiving calls from hundreds of Christians seeking help in getting out. At least 20 Christians have been killed in sectarian violence since Mubarak's ouster.
In the Ivory Coast, there are fears that former President Gbagbo and his wife are being mistreated. UN and French forces helped the rebel troops who ousted Gbagbo and arrested him this week. CBN's Gary Lane spoke earlier with Gbagbo's daughter. She says she's concerned for her parents' safety because the new president, Ouattara, has abused them in the past.
In 1992, when my parents organized a protest because the students had been abused on campus, he arrested them. My mom was beaten, and she was basically left for dead. Then they were all arrested along with my brother. So this is like deja vu for us. It's nothing new. He's the same man when he was prime minister, and it's the same attitude that he's using again today against the population of Côte d'Ivoire. I ask everyone to believe that God has not said the last word and to keep us in prayer.
And to hear more from Gbagbo's daughter, just go to Gary Lane's blog, The Global Lane. You can find that at cbnnews.com.
Coming up, revival in Russia, how one charismatic church is reaching thousands.
CWNews.org, your constant news source on the World Wide Web. Find daily updates on the global church. Watch the weekly broadcast.
3 former presidents come together to honor the life and ministry.
Also available in podcast. The in-depth insights into our reporter blogs.
Taliban kidnapped at least 18 South Korean Christians.
Your online news source for complete coverage of the global church.
A humble shepherd.
Who am I to lead your people out of Egypt?
And an evil king.
Speak up, insect.
Battle over the future of a nation.
And tell your people, I will never let them go!
In the latest Superbook episode,
you must lead my people Israel out of Egypt.
Let My People Go. Come explore with Chris.
Didn't see that coming.
Joy.
I'm not good in these kinds of situations.
And Gizmo.
Maybe I should try my magic card shuffle.
As they discover how God does amazing things through ordinary people. For your gift of $25 or more, you'll receive Superbook's newest DVD, Let My People Go, the original Superbook Exodus episode, and trading cards. Your gift will help create future episodes and bring God's Word to the next generation.
Cool. Right.
It's Superpower for Super Kids.
Hi, I'm Terry Mewson. At CBN, we're here to pray for you all year long. But each spring, the entire staff of CBN sets aside a special week of prayer to pray for your needs. We care about you and the things that are happening in your life. No matter how big or small your requests, we want to pray for you. Please call us or mail your prayer requests today. It's our privilege to pray for you.
Welcome back. Well, despite social and political upheaval, Russia is witnessing a Christian revival.
They sure are. As I recently discovered on my visit to Moscow, at the heart of this powerful move of God is the Moscow Good News Church, one of Russia's largest and fastest growing evangelical congregations. In a land where the Russian Orthodox Church dominates, one evangelical charismatic church is creating spiritual waves.
The Protestant movement is growing very strongly.
Americans Rick and Denise Renner are at the forefront of the movement. In 1991, the couple moved their family to what is now the former Soviet Union with the goal of reaching Russians with the gospel of Jesus Christ. 9 years later, in September 2000, they started Moscow Good News Church in the Russian capital city.
Moscow Church is approximately 3,500 people in regular attendance.
And that's big for Russia, where most Protestant churches attract less than 1,000 people to each of their congregations. And while the goal is to reach a broad section of those living in the Moscow metropolis, the church puts a special emphasis on reaching the upper class.
Specifically, as a part of our vision, is to reach a higher class of people.
Why?
Well, because they need God too. And there are not many churches that they can actually feel comfortable in.
Most Russians belong to the Orthodox Church. There are some 30,000 churches dotting the Russian landscape. The church is gaining more prominence after decades of persecution under the Soviet system. Yet, this newfound role isn't necessarily translating into regular attendance or observance.
Most people don't even know the tenets of the faith. They don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Nowadays, it is hip to be religious in Russia.
But Renner says something different happens at Moscow Good News. Those from an Orthodox background find the evangelical church community a whole new experience.
Some of them are shocked. Some of them think, wow, I've only seen this in movies.
Along with the preaching of the gospel, worship and the style of music played in church is a big draw too.
As I say, hey, come to church. We have music in church and it's fun. Like what, like gospel music?
In addition to the main service, Moscow Good News has an active children's ministry that puts on regular drama performances about the life of Christ. They also have an entire church dedicated just to reaching the elderly. And despite the tremendous success of Moscow Good News Church, it faces a huge public perception problem. You see, today in Russia, charismatic churches are often considered cults. So the government puts laws on the books to restrict religious freedom. And because the Russian Orthodox Church views the evangelical churches as competitors, they often side with the government, trying to limit evangelical church growth.
The official position of the Russian Orthodox Church is that everything besides them is a cult.
But a new generation of young Russians are emerging with different views on the matter.
I know the Orthodox Church doesn't have a good opinion of the Protestant churches, but that has to change. I have evangelical Christians who are friends of mine. I enjoy talking with them and appreciate things they share with me.
It is that sentiment that Renner and members of Moscow Good News Church hope lead to more Russians embracing the message of Jesus Christ.
Capitalism has come. Many people are successful. Many people have made money. Many people have lost a lot of money. And they know and they found out for themselves that it's not the answer to all their problems. And so there's a new wave of interest in spiritual things.
And you can learn more about the work of the church around the world at our website, cwnews.org. You can also follow Christian World News on Facebook.
When we come back, Soul Surfer, how faith in Christ helped one girl overcome the odds and become one of the best surfers in the world.
We asked CBN.com users how we could make our website easier to use, and we listened.
This is really easy to read and move through.
The information opens up a whole lot quicker.
Yeah, it's much faster. There's everything I'm interested in right here. The click of a mouse.
The new CBN.com has been redesigned, making it faster to find your favorite 700 Club stories, musical guests, our online community, and special features.
Anyone can enjoy this new site.
Visit the new CBN.com today.
Come on and cross over to the all-new Cross Country Radio from CBN.com. Cross Country, where country meets the cross.
There are 3 wooden crosses on the right side of the highway.
You'll hear real Christian country from great country artists like Craig Morgan.
That's what I love about Sunday. I sing along as the choir sways. Every verse of Amazing Grace.
Great Christian country classics.
He touched me. Oh, he touched me.
CBN.com's Cross Country. It's where you'll find some of the best homemade recipes. Plus, enjoy down-home stories that will touch your heart. The all-new Cross Country Radio, where country meets the cross. Cross Country. It's only on CBN.com.
I became a slave to it. It got really, really addictive for me. I said, God, you have to deliver me out of this. That woman of God laid her hands on me. My God instantly delivered. I didn't have any more feeling to smoke, to use crack cocaine. I didn't want any of that anymore. And if he could change me, he could change anyone.
But Bethany Hamilton was a young surfer who lost her arm in a shark attack, but now her story is being told in a new movie called Soul Surfer.
And that movie is doing great at the box office. It tells about her amazing comeback and the Christian faith that helped her become one of the top surfers in the world.
Bethany Hamilton is holding nothing back.
Looks like she has a real future.
Soul Surfer, starring Dennis Quaid, Helen Hunt, and Anna Sophia Robb as Bethany. It's the true life story of Bethany Hamilton. The 20-year-old surfer was only 13 when she lost her arm in a vicious shark attack off the coast of Kauai, where she grew up. It was a day her parents will never forget.
It was pretty traumatic. I didn't really know the condition she was in, but obviously if she was coming to the hospital, she was still alive. But until I saw her face to face, that's when I realized her arm was gone.
And my main concern was not whether she was going to surf again, but whether she was going to live.
Tom and Sherry Hamilton were avid surfers themselves and spent their younger days on Kauai, surfing all day and waiting tables at night.
We were obsessed with surfing and addicted to it, and our whole lives revolved around surfing.
They found Jesus thanks to another surfing friend who invited them to dinner.
And it seemed like, wow, Jesus is he's real, you know, and this is truth. So we ended up giving our hearts to the Lord pretty much at the same time.
Tom and Sherry raised their children in the church, and before the shark attack, Bethany and her mom had been praying that Bethany would be in the center of God's will, especially with her surfing.
We prayed that for 2 weeks, every day. So when it happened, I had peace. I had total peace in God.
As Bethany healed, she longed to get back on her board. But would she be able to surf with one arm?
There was times when I got frustrated, but for me, it's just I love surfing, and I was pretty determined, and I think God put that determination in my heart, and He knew that I would be able to handle it through Him.
But learning to surf with one arm was no easy task.
It's like I knew how to surf, I just had to figure out how to do it with one arm instead of two, and so I just had to use my brain a lot and just adjust and adapt to this new way of living. But I figured it out, and I still am learning to this day.
Bethany's story of overcoming incredible odds captured the attention of Hollywood.
I think it's a metaphor for everyone's life. You get knocked down, whatever your shark attack is or whatever happens to you, you have a shot to get back up. And Bethany shows that not only can you get back up on the board, but you can excel at it.
Bethany's story also impressed actor Dennis Quaid, who first learned about Bethany while watching The Today Show.
She was so inspiring, and the story so touched me that I wound up with just tears streaming down my face there at 7 in the morning on the couch. And then it just so happened 2 days later they offered me the part to play her father.
Actress Anna Sophia Robb, who learned to surf for the part, says hanging out with Bethany was very inspiring.
You think her arm's gone, but after spending a couple days with her, I just totally forgot that it wasn't there. Yeah. It's just, she goes on every day and lives life totally normally and just trying to set a good example and just live a godly life. Yeah. That's the most inspiring thing about her.
And country singer Carrie Underwood makes her big screen debut as Bethany's youth pastor.
I don't know why terrible things happen to us sometimes, but I have to believe that something good is going to come out of this.
Today, Bethany is among the top female surfers in the world. She graciously gave me a few pointers during my first attempt at surfing. The waves were pretty choppy that day, but Bethany had no problem popping right up on her board. And then, in my first attempt, I stood up for about a second. But what a thrill that 1 second was. The Hamiltons say as painful and traumatic as this shark attack was for Bethany, they believe God has a greater purpose in it. And they're hoping this movie will inspire others going through tough times to trust God and never give up.
Life's not about having all your limbs or, just having everything perfect. Life's not perfect, but through our imperfections is where we can bring beauty and good stuff out of life and glorify God through what we overcome.
So, you didn't know I could surf, George?
No, I didn't. I mean, that was more than a second.
You think so?
Yeah,
Maybe
was.
2 seconds.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I don't know. But you're supposed to put your hands like this,
right?
Not like that. And so I did it wrong, but I still stood up.
At least for 2 seconds.
But I love what she said at the end. Life is not about having all your limbs.
That's right.
It's not about being perfect. It's about, taking what happened to her, and she's still one of the top 10 surfers,
which is amazing.
Women
absolutely
surfers
incredible
in the world. Yeah, the movie's great too. We will be right back.
Right after this.
We created this website as a place where kids can learn the Bible in a whole new way.
Kids will love Superbook.tv. Their games, the ability to create your own personal Superbook characters. We even have a place for kids to listen to music on Superbook Radio.
Superbook is CBN's animated series that teaches the Bible through the eyes of two friends and their robot sidekick. We're going to tell stories all the way from creation to Christ's return.
The website also teaches kids life lessons. Parents can spend time online with their kids learning about the Bible.
Superbook and Superbook.tv are entirely gospel-centered, and by supporting it, you'll help bring God's Word to children all over the world.
We're reaching a new generation with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Together, we can give today's kids the truth of the Bible in a fun and exciting way that will change their lives.
Visit Superbook.tv today.
Hi, I'm Christy Watts. Okay, so I have a question for you. How's life? Listen, I know we all face challenges and we all go through difficult times, don't we? I mean, I know I do. But did you know that the staff right here at CBN sets aside a special week of prayer each spring just to pray for you? Because we care about you. We care about what's going on in your life. Listen, there are absolutely no prayer requests that are too big or even too small. We just want to pray for you. So please call us or mail in your prayer request today.
Christian World News, your window to the global church. For stories of revival,
Another revival.
persecution,
Funeral, relatives and fellow Christians mourn his
The first country over the international date
I'm
line.
Coach Thomas in Baghdad, and coming up on the broadcast, an exclusive interview.
and the impact of Christian leaders. Watch Christian World News.
I mean, imagine what the world was like 15 years ago with no internet. You know, that's hard to imagine, right?
Hard to imagine, yeah.
Now, what if Moses? Do you think Moses would have wanted the internet back then?
No, I don't think he would have.
don't think so?
But a new web video answers that question, and it's going viral. The video tells the Passover story using 21st century internet tools like Skype, Google, Facebook, and Twitter, just to name a few. It had more than 1.2 million views within its first week of going online. Video is produced by Aish.com, a Jewish group dedicated to helping Jews around the world learn more about their faith.
Well, there's a misconception, I think, that the Bible is antiquated, and especially in today's world with everything moving so fast, looking so forward-thinking. So telling the Exodus story through the medium of the internet helps break that misconception. Aish.com has been, what we've been doing for the past decade and more is taking Jewish Bible concepts and bringing them into the 21st century. So this is really a natural extension of what we've been doing to communicate to the younger generation that religion is still relevant to today's world.
So
Absolutely, Ash.com. And the video is also available online in Hebrew and Spanish.
That's awesome. Well, we have had a real smorgasbord of stories today. We hope you've enjoyed our broadcast. That is our report for this week. I really hope you enjoyed it, and you will join us again next week.
And until then, goodbye and God bless you.